This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy to see if you could save when you bundle your home and auto policies. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary, not available in all states.
Explaining football to the friend who's just there for the nachos? Hard. Tailgating from home like a pro with snacks and drinks everyone will love? An easy win. And with Instacart helping deliver the snack time MVPs to your door, you're ready for the game in as fast as 30 minutes. So you never miss a play or lose your seat on the couch or have to go head-to-head for the last chicken wing. Shop Game Day Faves on Instacart and enjoy $0 delivery fees on your first 3 grocery orders. Offer valid for a limited time. Other fees and terms apply.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up during inflation, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See detail.
Super real.
Hey, I'm Julian Morgans, and you're listening to What It Was Like, the show that asks people who have lived through big, dramatic events what it was like. Hey, we're going to start today's episode pretty big. We're going to start with a discussion about morality. Because we all like to believe that we're good. Very few of us see ourselves as the villain. And what I mean by that is that I think all of us believe that if it came to the crunch, we'd stand up for what's right. We'd call out bullies. We'd refuse orders if we were asked to do something bad. And I mean, I'm kind of describing myself here. This is my identity. I think I'm a good person. I think I've got a developed sense of what's right and what's wrong. I know that when I watch a war movie, like, I don't know, let's say it's some sort of Vietnam movie, and there's a soldier who's being ordered to shoot a civilian or commit some atrocity. I watch these moments and I'm like, I'd just say no. Just say no. But then also, this is a completely untested theory about myself. I've never been in a situation like that. So I don't really know how I'd respond. If someone in a position of authority told me to do something really bad, would I say no? Or would I just kind of do it? I don't know. I certainly believe that there's a pretty dark thread woven through humanity that allows us to do really bad things when someone tells us to do it. And there are social experiments that prove this. The really famous one that I'm thinking of was the Milgram experiment. And you've probably heard of this. It was conducted in a basement at Yale University in 1961. And a guy named Stanley Milgram devised this experiment that tested just how willing people are to administer electric shocks to total strangers when instructed by someone in a position of authority. So it went down like this. Participants were led to believe that they were assisting in an unrelated experiment about memory. They had to test the memory skills of a second person who they couldn't see. This second person was kind of behind a screen, and they had to deliver an electric shock if this person got their answer wrong. And these fake electric shocks gradually increased to levels that, had they been real, they would have probably been fatal. And what the experiment found was that 65% of participants were willing to continue to a level where the shocks were supposedly fatal, even as they heard the other person behind the screen screaming out in pain. And I just think this says a lot about humanity. It seems that as a species, we're hardwired to follow a hierarchy, to assume that those above us know best. Or certainly those who talk to us in a confident, kind of self-assured way, they know best. Now, the reason why all of this is relevant is because these psychological insights are interwoven through today's story. We're discussing a case that takes us back to the 90s, into the early 2000s, and it happened all across the United States. And what was happening was that someone was making a series of phone calls to various big chains around the country, particularly McDonald's. And this person was claiming to be a cop. Okay, I'll play it out for you. It goes like this. Let's say one night you're the manager at McDonald's and you get a phone call. And the person on the line says, "Hello, I'm a member of the police. I'm sitting down here at the police station just down the road from you guys. And we believe that one of your employees," and then this person on the phone would give a very vague description. "We're looking for a young woman with dark hair at your restaurant, an employee, and we believe they've stolen a purse. And you, the manager at this McDonald's, you need to strip search your employee and retrieve this purse." Now, this didn't always work. Of course, most of the time, this caller would reach someone with a bit of common sense who would hang up on them. But every now and then, they would luck upon a manager in a random McDonald's somewhere in the country who had an unquestioning respect for authority, who would be like, "Oh, okay, you're a member of the police force. Not a problem. That description lines up pretty well with a 17-year-old member of the team that we've got here. I'll just get her, and I will strip search her for you in the office." And in some of these cases, this person on the phone would basically instruct a McDonald's manager to commit really serious sexual assault on one of their employees. And these unwitting McDonald's managers, often they'd just go along with it because they thought they were somehow following police procedure, and they didn't realize that the whole thing was a grotesque prank. And dozens of McDonald's across the United States were targeted for about 10 years, and generally in small towns, generally regional areas where, for whatever reason, people tend to be a little more compliant and a little bit more respectful of authority. Until finally, today's guest comes into the picture. Today I'm talking to the man who finally put a stop to this. His name's Buddy Stump. It's an amazing name, and he comes from a small town in Kentucky called Mount Washington. And Buddy is a big character. He wears a cowboy hat, and as you're going to hear today, he sounds exactly like Woody Harrelson. He's this great slice of old-school Southern Americana, and he's going to help me to unpack what I think is this really interesting case study on our human capacity to blindly follow authority into the pits of hell. So here we go. I bring you Buddy Stump. Buddy, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me on.
Thanks for joining me. So give me a bit of a snapshot of your world. Where am I talking to you right now?
I live in Kentucky, over here in the United States, and in a rural area, farming community, just a real quiet little place. Lived here all my life.
Nice. And you've been in law enforcement most of your life too, right?
Well, I started late. I think I went in law enforcement when I was 36, 37 years old after I'd worked 17 years for a Fortune 500 company. And then I spent 22 years, something like that, in law enforcement, and now I'm retired.
Okay. So when this started in 2004, you were actually fairly fresh on the job.
I think I'd been a detective like 28 days or something like that when I got the call about this particular case, yes.
That's a real baptism by fire.
Yeah, and I'd not done any detective work before other than what I did as a patrol officer. I generally tried to solve my own cases, but I'd never had the official title of being the guy that's trying to right the wrongs and put the bad guy in jail on bigger cases, you know.
Okay, so take me back to 2004. Do you remember the day that your phone rang and this case landed on your desk? Tell me about it.
I remember it very well. I was at home watching a little TV, sort of chilling out. Had been at work. Best I can remember, it was a Friday night. And the assistant chief gave a call to the house and said, "Hey, I'm out at McDonald's here in Mount Washington, and we've got this case, and I need you out here." And I said, "Well, what happened? I mean, what's going on?" And he said, "Well, there's been an assault." He said, "Hell, I just don't know how to explain it to you." He said, "I just need you out here, and I need you out here now." I said, "Okay, I'll be on the way," and I live approximately 15 minutes from there. So I was there within 30 minutes time I got ready and got out there. And then when I arrived at the McDonald's, it was just sort of chaos. There was police cars sitting there, Of course, their emergency lights were flashing, but the weird thing about it was the McDonald's was still operating. I mean, they were still selling their hamburgers and fries and going right on, and police going in and out. And so as I'm walking in, they're trying to explain to me that they have a female employee there who had been assaulted, and then they tell me that there's a video of what had happened. So we go back into the main office there in the McDonald's, and I guess they put a camera in what I understand where they count the money down, and so this camera caught everything that happened. And
so this is a
so I watched the
CCTV camera up in the corner, like up in the ceiling of the office, like the manager's office in McDonald's.
Right, that's correct. Right, Ben. So they turned it on, and I watched a few minutes of it, and I went, "Oh my God!" I couldn't believe what I was watching.
What did you see? Can you just sort of describe?
What I saw was the victim. They had taken all of her clothes off, strip searched her, took her clothes away from her. They put them in a garbage bag. They'd taken the garbage bag out to her car, took her car keys, take her garbage bag to the car with her clothes in it, put them in her car. She was there with an apron, is all she had, and they had. And what I was seeing was, I seen the manager in the office with her, and then here come a man and a white male in the office, 30 to 40 years old, and he was on the phone, and she would be doing jumping jacks or running in place or standing up on a chair, and then it got to the point that he was even spanking her. Had her turned over his knee, spanking her, and by that time I had, of course, they'd done told me some other things that happened, but at that time I had seen enough to know that I needed to have go to the police department and get started with recording some statements. And of course, I advised one of the officers, you need to go. This gentleman was not on the scene anymore, so we had identified who he was.
This was the man who was doing the spanking. He'd nicked off.
We knew that he was the manager's fiance, McDonald's manager, yes.
Okay.
And which threw a red flag up, because he's not an employee of McDonald's, so why is he even there, you know? But there was so much going on. It was so unbelievable what I was seeing on the video. But I wanted to get a statement from the victim. I instructed one of the police officers to go to his home, pick him up, and bring him in. And we wanted to interview him as well. And of course, later on, we ended up charging him and as well. And I believe I even went ahead and charged him that night. But anyway, we got to the office, and I did not pay attention to the face of the victim on the video. But when the young lady sat down across from me, and I went, hell, it's my neighbor. And me and her dad had grew up together and played music together, run around together. She lived over here. They lived not far from me, about a half a mile. And hell, I didn't know what to say. She said, yeah, buddy, said, it's Louise. And that it just hit me like somebody hit me in the head with a 2-4. I could not believe what I was doing and what I was seeing. But not only that, it was somebody who I knew. And it really bothered me and upset me.
Just so we're clear, you'd watched your neighbor, who's very young at the time, she was 18, get sexually assaulted on closed-circuit television by this old man, this, fiance of a McDonald's manager, just in this awful little office. Like, that's a hard thing to watch.
I mean, she was a senior in high school, and my son and her were in the same senior class. So, It was one of the most awful things that I've watched, and the story plays out, and we're finding out they have accused her of stealing there at the McDonald's. A person had called in posing as a police officer.
Okay, so we we glossed over the phone call element of this. So walk me through how this had played out.
Well, they had told me that a person calling in, male subject, said it was Detective Scott, or said he was a police officer. The police would be on the way in a little bit, and they had a female employee, approximately 17, 18 years old, I think, sort of the story, and that, of course, the description that they give is sort of generic. I mean, hell, every McDonald's has got 17, 18-year-old female employees in it, and, brown hair, and I mean, that's, when you get to thinking about it later on, I mean, it was sort of a generic description, but anyway, he wanted the manager to take this employee back in the office and detain her and strip search her. And the manager did that. And they locked the door. They put a garbage bag over the window on the door so nobody could see in and see what they were doing. They detained her. They took all of her clothes off of her. They put those in a garbage bag, took her keys to her car, took her clothes, and locked them in her car. The only way that this young lady could get out of there was run through the McDonald's naked and out into the parking lot. I mean, they had her jammed up. She's like a hostage. I mean, scared to death, didn't know what to do. Bad situation.
That doesn't sound like police procedure to me. That's...
There was nothing about this whole damn thing that was police procedures. I mean, if I had a case that I need to investigate, I'm going to go investigate it. I'm not going to have a civilian doing my investigation work. I cannot introduce that into court or into the case. There was nothing about this that if they stopped and thought, anybody with any common sense at all would have known something's wrong here. This smells bad. That's not a good thing.
Yeah, I'll just go out on a limb here and say that this McDonald's manager doesn't sound like the brightest crayon in the deck. To receive a phone call like that and be like, sure, I'll just go ahead with all of this without questioning it.
Definitely was not the sharpest knife in the drawer, but and then I'm thinking, hell, maybe somebody playing a prank or something. Maybe maybe somebody at McDonald's is playing a prank on on Louise or something, of course, later on it played out that wasn't the case either, but it was all kinds of things running through my mind that night. I mean, I didn't know which end was up for about 2 hours.
Okay, sure. But I guess the important thing here for you is that you know the victim. Louise, this is personal. So you're suddenly incentivized to really go after whichever asshole created this nightmare of a situation. You want to go and get them.
Exactly, and I thought, well, it would be simple, but then I found out it would be like finding a needle in a haystack.
Why is that?
Well, thank God we had caller ID on the phone at McDonald's, and it had captured a phone number, which was a long-distance number. I didn't have a clue where it come from. And so one of the guys said, well, maybe we need to hit Google. So got on Google, and when I hit Google search, just typed in McDonald's strip search, and then it just started. Hell, it had been happening everywhere. I went, oh my God, it was just a wealth of information just flowing. And then I felt even more helpless because if all these cases were out there, and with just a little bit of research, I was finding that nobody was solving any of these cases. And I thought, wow, something's got to be done. And surely to God, nobody can outsmart us that bad. But as it went on, hell, it had been going on for 10 years, and restaurants all across the United States. And they had one restaurant chain had retired FBI agents that had been hard as private investigators working on. They hadn't come up with anything. And so for some reason, maybe it was because Louise was somebody that I knew real close, but it just hit me right in the gut. And that's all I worked on. I mean, that would be a little case come through and out, but every free minute I had, I worked on this case. I thought about it at home. I thought about it in the shower. I thought about it when I went to bed at night. I was thinking about it when I got up. And I had made the commitment to myself that I was going to try my damnedest to catch whoever was responsible for this and bring them to justice. And that phone number ended up being a big key to that, because I called AT&T and I got one person to another person to another person to another person, and probably an hour and a half later, maybe 2 hours. It was a long time.
Yeah.
A lady, I got on the phone, and this lady said, well, yeah, that's one of our numbers. That's a prepaid calling card number. I said, can you track where that phone call was made from? She said, well, yeah, your call originated in Panama City, Florida.
Florida.
And
okay.
I said, all right, we're getting places. That it was actually doing it quite fast. I was amazed at how fast things were going, but they slowed down. Somebody threw the brakes on a little later. But anyway, we got that far along. And then I asked that lady one more question. I said, who is the largest seller of your calling cards? And she said, she laughed. She said, well, hell, Walmart, of course.
Okay.
And I said, really? So I called a Walmart in Panama City, Florida, right after I got off the phone with her, and I got their security, and I told them what I had. And because she said for 10 years, roughly, they've been receiving phone calls from police departments. And she said, well, Buddy, she said, I've never had a detective call me this soon after their case happened. She said, normally, because Walmart keeps their security footage on VHS videos, and they re-record over them about every 60 days, I think she told me it was. You are so fast. You've gotten this far so fast. She said, it's unbelievable. She said, we have 3 Walmarts down here. I'm going to call them all and tell them to all to go to new tapes and hold their video. Do not record over anything.
Nice.
And then I'm going to hook you up. You need to talk to a Detective Flaherty in West Bridgewater, Massachusetts, who's working on a case like you got.
Ah, so she played connector for you. You know, you guys were individual police departments. You didn't know about each other. And this lady at Walmart is actually stepping in as the networker.
And she's 650 miles south of me, and I don't know how far Massachusetts is, but north of me, but probably 600 miles, 600 miles north of me, and I'm sort of in the middle.
Were you surprised to hear that there were other cops, just like yourself, who were also working on the case? Were you relieved, or were you kind of like, hey, this is my case? You know, like, what was your feeling there?
No, I was relieved because I felt like I just felt like a long dog out here trying to chase a rabbit, and I didn't have a whole pack of us to go after him. So I was all about getting a little bit more help. And what was discouraging to me, some of the cases that I was researching, I think a lot of the cases weren't sufficiently investigated like they should have been, but they didn't. My video spoke hugely. I mean, a picture's worth 1,000 words, and nobody's making this up. You're gonna sit here and I can show it to you on video what went on that night at that McDonald's. So,
I just want to highlight as well, because I think we might have glossed over it before. But this McDonald's manager called in her fiance, this older guy. He was middle aged, you know, balding, you know, pretty large guy, and he sexually assaulted this woman. And I think my understanding is it ended with a demand for oral sex, right? He basically forced this young girl to, you know, perform this sexual act on him on this video. You know, this is awful stuff. You know, the stakes are high. This is not just a bit of nudity. This is really serious criminal behavior.
That's correct. That was towards the end of it. And he did it numerous times, even after the phone call ended. And there's another city about 8 or 10 miles from us in Bullitt County called Hillview, and they had a McDonald's there. Caller had called in after our call was over, called that McDonald's, but it was a very short phone call, and they didn't fall for it, but it came back with the same, the best I remember, the same callback number. So, I mean, when he ended up getting hung up on at the McDonald's in Mount Washington, well, he's already trying to make another call to do it again at another McDonald's.
God, this guy's busy.
Yeah, I don't see how physically. I don't say I stood at a payphone that many hours to do that. But
yeah, that's right. Ethics aside, standing at a payphone outside, just standing up like that's pretty uncomfortable.
Right, exactly.
Did you, when you were Googling these cases, did you see other cases that you felt were even worse than yours, or did your case sort of represent the upper sort of tier of severity?
I think the case we had fairly represents one of the worst cases that happened with him. I know some were as bad. A few of them were as bad. Some of them weren't as bad. But I think this one is a fair representation of one of the worst cases that we had that I was able to learn about from researching.
Okay. Well, let's get back to the story. And just before we continue, I just want to clarify that, you know, for anyone who's listening and was not around in the era of payphones, a calling card, it's like a little credit card sort of shaped card, and you am I right in thinking you load money on it, and it allows you to make a whole bunch of phone calls by slotting this little card into the payphone. It's a replacement to coins, really.
Yeah, as I understand, I mean, you bought payphone calling cards were bought in different monetary amounts.
Yeah, right. Okay, so you'd established that the calling card that was used to make the call to the McDonald's in your area was purchased at a Walmart in Florida.
That's correct.
So let's follow the chronology. So tell me about how you got a video. You got some footage from above the register at Walmart showing your calling card getting purchased. Talk me through that.
Well, Vic told me that he was going to, him and another detective, were going to fly to Florida.
And Vic is he's the detective from Boston.
He's the West Bridgewater, Massachusetts detective. I'm sorry. And they were going to fly down to Florida and talk with a Panama City detective. So I'm sitting back here in Kentucky. I'm cocked and locked and ready to go, and I'm waiting to see what they find. And so what had happened was they go down there, they pull my video out, and there he is. Then Vic knew, because there he stood, registered number 7. That's the man. You can't deny it. Then Vic knew who he was looking for in his video. So then they found the same guy in his video.
Right.
And when they found him, he had on a pair of pants that were quite unusual. They were pants like a police officer would wear with the stripe down the leg.
Yeah.
And the Panama City detective said, wait a minute, that's a prison guard or jail guard. And so I think they went to the local jail there, and nobody identified him. But when they went to the prison, the warden there identified the guy. And, hell, he's here working now.
What?
That's how he got identified. And, of course, they didn't call me and tell me this till the next day, but they identified him, and then they went ahead and met with him and served a search warrant on his house. And then they called me the next day and told me what they'd found in the search warrant, calling cards and whatever. And so then I got a warrant, and but this time it's almost lunchtime, and I called my wife and I said, pack my bags. I'm going to Panama City, Florida. It was by July the 4th, we've got him ID'd. And so, hell, everybody else had been 10 years and hadn't ID'd him, so we thought we were moving along pretty good.
Yeah, this is a very fast turnaround. Let's just pause on a few details here. So the suspect, I'm assuming Vic was like, hey, he's kind of 6 foot tall, he's got dark hair. He sort of ran you through a bit of a description of this guy. What was Vic's first impression? Like, what was the impression that you were receiving about who this man was?
Well, I mean, we all thought, no, this can't be a police officer when this all happened. I think Vic even thought the same thing in his case. The guy's saying he's a police officer, but he there's no way he could be a police officer. But hell, we were all shocked. I mean, he wasn't a police officer, but he was pretty damn close. He was coming in a close second. He was a prison guard. And we were just shocked that it actually was somebody that was involved in the law enforcement field. And but it didn't matter. I don't care what if you're in law enforcement and you've done something wrong, you pay the price just like everybody else. He needed to go to jail, and the fastest way it was going to get him there was me getting my ass to Florida with a arrest warrant. So I drove all night, 650 miles straight through. After I'd worked all day, I left about the middle of the afternoon, and I got down there 5 in the morning. And
were you excited? It sounds to me like this might have been a very exciting moment in your career, especially because, you were a sort of corporate guy before you became a detective. It feels to me like in that career landscape, this moment where you're about to go and arrest this guy and you're driving down to Florida in your car, this to me sounds very exciting.
This was a 650-mile adrenaline rush is what this was. I mean, I was pumped up.
I would have been too.
I was happy as a lark because I never really thought we would ever solve this case. I never thought this would ever happen. I'd ever meet the guy who was on the other end of the phone.
Hey, we're just going to stop here for a quick ad break, but stick around. We'll be right back with more What It Was Like.
The new Boost Mobile network is offering unlimited talk, text, and data for just $25 a month for life.
That sounds like a threat.
Then how do you think we should say it?
Unlimited talk, text, and data for just $25 a month for the rest of your life?
I don't know.
Until your ultimate demise.
What if we just say forever?
Okay.
$25 a month, forever.
Get unlimited talk, text, and data for just $25 a month with Boost Mobile forever.
After 30 gigabytes, customers may experience slower speeds. Customers will pay $25 a month as long as they remain active on the Boost Unlimited plan.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can find options that fit your budget and potentially lower your bills. Try it at progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
Ryan Reynolds here for, I guess, my 100th Mint commercial. No, don't. I mean, honestly, when I started this, I thought I only have to do like 4 of these. I mean, it's unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month. How are there still people paying 2 or 3 times that much? I'm sorry, I shouldn't be victim blaming here. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch. Whenever you're ready.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
So tell me about the moment that you first laid eyes on him.
Me and this female detective and one sheriff's deputy, a detective from Sheriff's Office, Bay County Sheriff's Office. And so we go out there and drive down this dirt road, and he lived in a mobile home. We get back there. Of course, I was about half prepared. I didn't even have my vest with me. So she had an extra vest. So if you can imagine me in a female's ballistic vest, well, anyway, it worked. We got the job done. But anyway, he was coming out into the front yard. So I actually went through the fence and actually cuffed him up myself. I was actually the one who put the handcuffs on him because we were surrounding the house, and it just worked out that way. So,
Okay. I just want to get your impressions of this guy. So you've been thinking about this man for quite a long period of time. You know, you're angry at him personally. And then you go and see him. He's in his front yard down this dirt track in Florida. And he sounds like a bit of a redneck, in my humble opinion. You go and cuff him. What did you think of him? Were you like, were you angry? Was it a sort of a passionate moment, or, walk me through it?
Of course, they've done told me about him. So they've done a lot of those emotions that had done played through my head as I'm on the way to Florida, because they have already told me what they talked to him about, what they talked about, what they found. I just thought, you're just a damn piece of trash. I mean, that's just what I thought. I mean, I could not believe that one jackass living in a mobile home and could hurt that many people.
Yeah.
I just, and not only hurt, my God, how many millions of dollars was spent tracking him down, or at least hundreds of thousands of dollars spent for private investigators and police agencies and, taxpayer dollars spent trying to track this guy for 10 years. I mean, you're talking a lot of money. And just because he's one guy out here with this little fantasy to make these phone calls and do that, and hurt all these individuals, male and female alike, because I know there was one case that researched that the male was assaulted. So male and female alike, it was just mind-blowing to me that this guy in this place could do this to these people. But then it was disappointing a few minutes later when he's really not going to talk to me, and he done said all he was going to say to Vic, so he didn't have anything much to say to me. I learned more about him on the ride back, which took place quite a bit down the road, but I learned a little bit about his mind on the ride back than I did when I actually arrested him.
Well, let's just jump to that then, because that's also a fairly unusual situation. You had to drive this guy all the way back to Kentucky with him in the back seat, right?
Well, we had him there in the back seat, and we talked some, and we just talk about just ordinary stuff, just shooting the bull. But then he would want to get into talking about policing and interested in what I'm doing. And he wanted, the impression that I got coming back, it wasn't that he was a mean guy. he really, like, he wanted to be one of us. And that gave him the opportunity, because I know from our investigation that he had actually rode with police officers and stuff on duty, you know, was just riding around as a special deputy or whatever. But it's like he felt like he was one of us all the way back to Kentucky. The problem, he didn't have his head, he was in the wrong damn seat. But he was very good to travel with. He complied. Yes, sir, no, sir. Would stop, get something to eat real quick. There wasn't an issue. He was very good to work with all the way back. But I got that impression that he was sort of really enjoying, like, that. All right, I'm hanging out with the guys, you know, and that was the impression I got out of him.
I mean, from my perspective, it seems like all of this stuff is sexually motivated. You know, he's making these strip search calls because, you know, nudity. But you're actually suggesting it's actually much more about just like role playing as a cop.
Yeah, I tell you what, if he'd have been a good guy, he'd have been a hell of an interviewer. I mean, I think he could make you believe anything. And he did an excellent job role playing as a police officer. And when something would come up that they're going to doubt something, or they have a question, well, hell, he had an answer to answer them right off the bat. Well, they'll be there in just a few minutes. Just, you know, I mean, they want to know why you hadn't got there, why police hadn't got there. You know, something held up, they got a wreck, they got whatever. I mean, he had an excuse to make these managers feel comfortable with going on and waiting a little longer. You know, he was very good at what he did, and maybe not so sexual. I think he got a lot of gratification out of the fact that he could hear what was going on through the phone. He heard Walter Nick spanking Louise. He heard that through the phone, and I think that gave him satisfaction that they were complying to his wishes, and he had authority over them to be able to get them to carry out those acts. I think that was part of his gratification.
Okay. Yeah, right. So it's much more about him as the master of puppets instead of him as the S&M sex lord kind of guy.
Right.
Was he, I don't know, by your read, was he smart or just sort of like emotionally intelligent?
See, he's just an average guy. I'll just say that. I don't think he was real intelligent. Or he probably wouldn't have been doing what he was doing. But he was, he always had, you know, he was just an average guy. I don't think he was super smart, but I don't think he was, you know, an idiot either. Because for somebody to get away with this for 10 years, an idiot wouldn't have pulled that off.
Was he a creep? You know, when you looked in the rear vision mirror and looked at his eyes, did you get a bit of a creepy vibe off him?
No, not really. Not really. He didn't make me feel. He didn't make me feel like some of my people that I've arrested before did. Nothing like that. I mean, I didn't trust him because I constantly kept my eye on him, but he didn't. It wasn't like that. That's why I think it was more of a compliance thing than it was a sexual thing with him. He just used the sexual things to get the compliance that he wanted.
That's so annoying. You know, he could have been like, hey, spit in the burger, or, you know, like if you're calling it a McDonald's, there's 10,000 weird things you can make people do without, you know, telling them to strip.
But he had to come up with something. He had to come up with something that he could do in the confines of a little room. Spit in the burger would be out, somebody else might be seeing them, and it would be something that would be affecting the customer. He had to come up with something that two people, one-on-one, could do and make them be compliant.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I like to think that if the brief was to come up with some freaky thing that you could do in a small room with two people, I think I could come up with some options. But the sexual assault thing's a real shame because it's got a lot of fallout, especially when you're targeting 17, 18-year-old young women.
It got a lot of fallout. Yeah. And the problem was we had no cooperation. I mean, there was no cooperation from McDonald's to try to help me in this situation. I don't know how the other restaurants were with the other detectives, but I mean, when you don't have cooperation from the business that's got the employee, it makes it that much harder to get your job done. And I remember when we went to pull the hard drive from the computer. And we're there at the McDonald's to pull the search warrant. And here comes this little guy walking back in the office, and he says, you can't have that hard drive. He says, CEO has sent instructions for me to pick that up. And I said, well, I got a piece of paper here. It says it belongs to Commonwealth, Kentucky, so you can tell your CEO, go buzz off. But what I thought about that was, why in the hell is a CEO of McDonald's even know about what's going on here in Mount Washington in this McDonald's? How does he even know that? I mean, shit stuff goes on all the time. The CEO's not going to know about it. So that was just the beginning of the relationship that we had with McDonald's. We had to stand our ground, take what we needed with a search warrant, and go on. And I didn't ask them for a whole lot more help after that.
Okay. All right. Well, let's get into that. So you get this guy back to Kentucky. Tell me about putting together the case and the way it unfolded.
Well, we had our video, of course, and that was one of the reasons that we had the best case in the United States that everybody said. And I worked with the Commonwealth attorney, and we had the stuff the two things that he did say when Vic interviewed him. We had the calling cards that was found in his room. The calling card that was used in my case was found in his bedroom. I was able to take another calling card in his bedroom and track it to, I don't remember which state, but it was out in the Northwest, south of North Dakota. Was able to track it to a case that happened there. I had the calling card that was in his room. I thought we had some pretty compelling evidence.
Yeah.
With the calling cards alone.
I would have thought that's a smoking gun. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we had the video of him standing at the register number 7 at the Walmart that anybody, hell, the judge in Florida recognized him on the video enough. He knew that. I mean, it was a very good video. It was a shot coming down from the top, but I mean, you could see his face good. So when the judge says take him back into custody and turn him over to the Commonwealth, well, I'm thinking we're in pretty good shape.
Okay. And how did it go?
Well, there were. He hired a hotshot attorney here out of Louisville who's trying to make a name for himself. He's been a very successful attorney. But whatever, he ended up they found him not guilty.
So he got off.
It was a bad day. And of course, they brought him into court, and they had changed his hairstyle, and they cleaned him up, and he wasn't as scruffy as he was in the video, and tried to make him look like he was a businessman off of Wall Street and bullshit. And then he's trying to say, well, look, he doesn't look like the guy that's in the video, and what the defense attorney was trying to pull that to put down in the juror's mind that he wasn't the same guy. Well, hell, why are we even going here? And it was, but you know, it is what it is. I will say this. He was found not guilty, but I had sent a teletype out, which goes to every 911 center across the United States, with the MO of this case, and wanted to know if any police agency could report a case to me of this MO happening after the arrest date, which I think was like the 2nd or 3rd of July, and never got a response. You know, when I would sometimes solve a theft case, there's maybe, I don't know, thousands more of them going on at the same time, in the country.
Yeah.
But when I solved this case, it ended the whole damn crime.
Yeah.
There wasn't any more going on, which goes to lead me, if this wasn't the guy, why were we still having cases happen?
Yeah.
It's everything pointed to him before, after, but it is what it is. The defense attorney put enough doubt in, the juror have to find him guilty beyond a reasonable doubt.
Yeah.
And he put just enough doubt in there that he got to walk. Unfortunately, but that's the way it happened.
Okay. But he never committed the crime again?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. So I understand Louise went and sued McDonald's for damages. Can you give me a bit of a rundown on what happened there?
Yeah, she actually sued them. I think she got an attorney to take her case, and I think they sued her for about $200 million is what they were asking for when it started, and it turned into probably the largest civil suit that ever happened in the history of Bullitt County, Kentucky.
Damn.
And the attorney that she represented her in that case, so that she went, from me just watching, and she went after McDonald's more on the fact of not training their employees. McDonald's has always boasted of themselves as one of the best training companies in the country, but for some reason they let the training fall through the crack in the floor here, and she felt like their employees should have been trained a lot more, and this has been going on for 10 years. They should have let their managers and employees know, and maybe this case wouldn't have happened in the first place. And so they ended up, she went after them with lack of training, and they took a civil suit, filed a civil suit after McDonald's.
Okay. And she walked away, she didn't get the $200 million, but she walked away with a fair bit of cash, right?
She did. I felt like she was going to. I went down for the closing arguments in the case, and that's all I got to see. They'd actually deposed me, but I didn't have to testify in the case, but I couldn't be after they decided they wasn't going to call me as a witness, they told me I could come down. I went down for the closing argument. And I'll remember it was the manager's attorney in the closing arguments. He was telling the jurors, and he said, McDonald's, I never will forget it. He said they can send out a notice to every McDonald's in the world that we're going to have a McRib special 2 for $2, and it's going to start such and so date. But we can't send a notice out to every McDonald's worldwide that we got somebody posing as a police officer wanting, accusing our employees of stealing from customers and wanting you to strip search them. I thought, that's a money shot right there.
That's a good argument.
Ended up that the jury did, agreed, because the jury found the suit against McDonald's to be valid, and they awarded, I want to think, around $6 million to Louise, and I want to think about $1 million to the manager. Now, I don't know what they actually got, but I mean, that's what it was.
That's good. That's good money. How's Louise doing these days?
I haven't seen Louise in years. I know where she lives, and I just saw her grandmother and asked about her the other day. She said she was doing good, but as far as I know, she's doing fine. Got a family and going on with life. To my knowledge.
Yeah. And what did you learn about the sort of human instinct for deferring to authority? There's been a bit of talk about the Milgram experiment at Yale University and how this case illustrates that people will just blindly follow authority to anywhere. You got some personal thoughts on that?
Well, it depends on who the person is. As we see what's going on nowadays, I don't know what's going on where you live, but I know, hell, it's complete chaos over in the United States in some cities. Hell, authority is not respected at all. But authority is respected if their parents raised their child and don't leave them up to somebody else to raise them. I mean, in Louise's case, she was in a military home. She had a grandfather and grandparents that loved her. She had parents that loved her. She was disciplined, I'm sure. If she did something wrong, she respected her parents. She respected her grandfather, who used to be a police officer. She respected authority. She respected adults and people that were older than her, told her to do something because she trusted people. She was working this job to make extra money, not to just buy gas for her car and insurance. She was making this money to pay for her cap and gown and things she needed for her senior year expenses. Those are the kind of people that respect authority, people who were raised with authority. But it depends on how people are raised. That's my true feeling from the heart, whether they're going to respect authority or not.
Yeah. But I think this case also throws a sort of third dimension into this, where in this case, the person posing as authority was requesting stuff that was really wrong, really, really ethically compromised. I guess he was sometimes landing on victims who they'd been raised in such a way where, like you say, they respected authority. But then they sort of needed this added bit of common sense or backbone to push back when the requests got too weird. And this is a sort of double expectation where respect for authority on the one hand, but on the other hand, an ability to think for yourself. And at times there's a tension between the two things. And I think that's what's really interesting about this case.
And I blame that on her supervisor. I mean, Louise was still young. She was still in school. But the manager, is the one who should have questioned those requests from that police officer. I mean, hell, you're in charge of making sure that young lady stays safe at your work and in your workplace. I mean, just because somebody goes out here and tells you set your hair on fire don't mean you got to go put gas on you, drop a match on it. I mean, you need to think about common sense comes in here.
Yeah.
And there was no common sense used that night except until the custodian came along and realized that they'd been scammed. And in my opinion, the manager was the one who should have not followed the authority that particular night.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in a different life, had you been the manager of McDonald's, how do you think you'd have played it?
I would have told him, well, I tell you what we'll do. We'll bring her back here and we'll hold her till the police get here. But there's not going to be any strip searching going on. There's not going to be anything. And if your police don't get here pretty soon, we're not even going to hold her because only the police can hold somebody for a limited period of time. In fact, more than likely, I would have just confirmed that she's here now. If you want to talk to her, you just come in the dining room and help yourself. But we're not getting involved in this. That would have been my take on it.
Yeah. Okay. Look, last question. I'm just wondering, in the sort of stories of your life, where does this one sit? I mean, do you attend dinner parties and someone will be like, hey, buddy, tell us about that case you worked on? Or, is this a sort of feature in your world?
Well, no, I don't have many people ask me to tell them about it. I mean, as you know about the show that they did a couple of years ago, somebody always said when this case happened, hell, they'll make a TV show out of that one of these days. And I said, yeah, right. And, well, that came to pass, and then all of a sudden you call me out of the blue, and 20 and 22 years later, I'm thinking it's all over and forgotten about. But we worked pretty hard on that case, and I really appreciate guys like you stirring it back up again a little bit. I got more satisfaction out of this case than probably any case that ever worked because we stopped the crap from happening, and that was a win for me.
Yeah.
And I just wish people, and this goes with elderly people and even today, all these scams that go on, and I'm thinking, I wish people just hang up the damn phone. And then they wouldn't lose their money. There would be so many less crimes to work, and people would be a lot less victims if you just hang up the phone. You don't have to do what people tell you to do on the phone. A lot of the humans do. They try to be helpful sometime and don't work out.
Does not work out. I think that's a pretty important message. And a good note to end on. Well, buddy, thanks so much for talking me through this story. It's fascinating. I'm glad you put an end to it. And just thanks for your time.
Well, thanks for having me on, and we appreciate getting the opportunity to talk with you, and we had a good time.
Please leave us a 5-star review on Apple and on Spotify. And you know what? The best thing that you could do, if you want to help, we'd love it if you'd follow the show. That would be incredible. We're also on TikTok. That's right. Our handle is @WhatItWasLikePodcast. That's all one word, What It Was Like Podcast, and it's the same on YouTube. Today's episode was produced by Rachel Tuffery. It was mixed by Jimmy Saunders, and he also did our theme music. Darcy Humphreys and Daniela Cantu are our interns. Our cover art is by Naomi Lee Beveridge, and this whole thing has been a Super Real production.
The new Boost Mobile network is offering unlimited talk, text, and data for just $25 a month for life.
That sounds like a threat.
Then how do you think we should say it?
Unlimited talk, text, and data for just $25 a month for the rest of your life?
I don't know.
Until your ultimate demise.
What if we just say forever?
Okay.
$25 a month, forever.
Get unlimited talk, text, and data for just $25 a month with Boost Mobile forever.
After 30 gigabytes, customers may experience slower speeds. Customers will pay $25 a month as long as they remain active on the Boost Unlimited plan.
Hey, it's Mark Marin from WTF here to let you know that this podcast is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. And I'm sure the reason you're listening to this podcast right now is because you chose it. Well, choose Progressive's Name Your Price tool, and you could find insurance options that fit your budget, so you can pick the best one for your situation. Who doesn't like choice? Try it at Progressive.com. And now, some legal info. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.